Take a look at your kitchen counter for a second. That little fruit bowl sitting next to the coffee maker, the one you refill every week because your doctor told you years ago to eat more fresh fruit. Now look at the small orange pill bottle beside it. Lisinopril, 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams, maybe 40. You've been taking it every morning without a second thought, the way you brush your teeth or put on your glasses. And for millions of Americans over 60, that quiet little routine, the pill, the glass of water, a piece of fruit on the way out the door, is doing something to your body that no one ever properly warned you about. Because there is one fruit sitting in that bowl, one that is on nearly every heart-healthy list ever written, that cardiologists have quietly stopped recommending to their patients on this specific medication. Not because the fruit is bad, not because lisinopril is bad, but because the two of them together, taken day after day, week after week, in a body that is over 60, can slowly push something in your bloodstream to a level that changes how your heart beats. And most people never feel it coming until the moment it becomes an emergency. Here's what almost no one explains clearly. Lisinopril belongs to a family of drugs called ACE inhibitors. It works by relaxing your blood vessels, which is exactly why it lowers your blood pressure so effectively. But it does something else at the same time, something they mention on the pharmacy insert in language so small and so technical that nobody actually reads it. It tells your kidneys to hold on to potassium, not release it, hold it. And in a younger body, that's usually not a problem. The kidneys are quick, efficient, and they clear the excess without you ever noticing. But somewhere after age 60, sometimes earlier if you have any kidney weakness, diabetes, or heart concerns, those kidneys slow down. They don't fail, they just get tired. They can't flush potassium out at the speed they used to. And if you're also eating a fruit that is naturally packed with potassium, every single morning, you are quietly loading a mineral into your bloodstream faster than your body can get rid of it. Now here's the part that should make you sit up a little straighter. The symptoms of that slow potassium buildup are the exact symptoms most seniors dismiss as just getting older. A strange tiredness in the afternoon that no nap seems to fix. Legs that feel heavy going up the stairs. A little tingling around the lips or in the fingertips. A heartbeat that feels like it hesitates for a split second, then catches back up. You shrug it off. You blame the weather, the arthritis, the poor sleep. And meanwhile, the level keeps climbing. This isn't a reason to panic, it's a reason to pay attention. Because once you understand what's actually happening, you'll notice things about your own body you've been ignoring for months, maybe years. And the fruit I'm about to name, the one your doctor probably praised 20 years ago, is very likely sitting in your kitchen right now. Not exotic, not rare, something you buy without even thinking about it. Let me show you exactly what it is and why the advice quietly changed. The fruit is the banana. That's it. That's the one. The same yellow fruit sitting in nearly every American kitchen. The one you were told to eat when your legs cramped. The one your doctor once nodded at approvingly when you mentioned it as your morning snack. The one nurses used to hand out to patients recovering from heart trouble because it was considered one of the safest, most natural sources of potassium on Earth. And that reputation is exactly the problem. For decades, bananas were treated like a small miracle. Cheap, portable, easy on the stomach, gentle on dentures, and loaded with a mineral that helps regulate blood pressure in healthy people. That's why your generation was practically raised on the idea that a banana a day was one of the smartest things you could do for your heart. And for most of your life, that advice was probably fine. But something changed the moment your doctor wrote that first prescription for lisinopril, or enalapril, or ramipril, or any of the other ACE inhibitors that share the same mechanism. The rules quietly flipped. What used to be a healthy habit became a slow, silent contributor to a condition doctors call hyperkalemia. Too much potassium in the blood. One medium banana contains roughly 420 milligrams of potassium. That doesn't sound like much on paper, but when your kidneys are already being told by your medication to hold on to potassium instead of releasing it, that number stops being harmless. It starts stacking, day after day. And here's what most seniors never hear. Bananas are not the only fruit doing this. Not even close. Oranges, cantaloupe, honeydew, dried apricots, raisins, prunes, avocado, even tomato juice and baked potatoes, which technically aren't fruit but land on the same list. All of them are potassium-rich. All of them are considered healthy for the general population, and all of them can quietly work against you when you're on lisinopril and over the age of 60. The dried fruits are actually the worst offenders because the potassium is concentrated. A small handful of dried apricots can carry more potassium than 2 full bananas. And who eats just a small handful? You grab them by the fistful because they're sweet and chewy, and you've been told they're better than candy. This is where the betrayal sets in for a lot of people watching this, because you did everything right. You cut back on salt. You stopped buying processed junk. You filled your fridge with produce. You listened. And nobody told you that the very foods you were leaning on could combine with your blood pressure pill to nudge your potassium into a range your kidneys can no longer safely manage. That's not your fault. That's a gap in how this medication is explained at the pharmacy counter. But the fruit alone is only half the story. There is a second ingredient in most American kitchens that multiplies this risk far more aggressively than any banana ever could. It's marketed as heart healthy. It sits right on the dinner table, and most people using it have no idea what it actually contains. Let me show you what it is. Walk into almost any senior's kitchen in America, and you'll find it. A small shaker, usually with a blue or green label, sitting right next to the regular salt. It might say no salt. It might say Morton light salt. It might say sodium-free seasoning or heart-healthy alternative. Your doctor may have even suggested it years ago when your blood pressure numbers first started creeping up. And every time you sprinkle it on your eggs, your soup, your baked potato, you feel like you're doing something good for yourself. Here's what that shaker actually contains. Potassium chloride. In many brands, it's nearly pure potassium chloride. 1 small teaspoon can carry between 1,500 and 2,800 milligrams of potassium. That is the equivalent of eating 4 to 7 bananas in a single serving. And unlike the potassium in fruit, which comes packaged with fiber and water that slow the absorption, the potassium in these salt substitutes hits your bloodstream fast, very fast. Your kidneys, already working overtime under Lisinopril, suddenly have to deal with a flood. Now stack that on top of your morning banana. Add the orange juice at breakfast, the avocado toast at lunch, the tomato soup for dinner. Maybe a multivitamin that includes potassium. Maybe a senior formula supplement your neighbor recommended. Each one on its own sounds harmless. Together, on a body taking lisinopril, they become a slow-motion problem your blood work may not catch until your next annual physical. And sometimes not even then, because most standard checkups don't specifically flag potassium unless a doctor requests it. This is the part that catches people completely off guard. The very habits you adopted to be healthier, cutting salt, switching to a substitute, eating more fruit, taking a daily vitamin, can quietly work against the medication that's protecting your heart. It's not that any single one of these things is dangerous. It's that nobody sat you down and explained how they combine. And they do combine, silently, cumulatively, over weeks and months. There's another category most people never think about: sports drinks and electrolyte powders. The ones marketed for hydration, for hot summer days, for replenishing after a walk. Many of them contain added potassium. Coconut water is even worse. A single cup can carry 600 milligrams. And here's a strange one that surprises even nurses. Some of the popular low-sodium canned soups and low-sodium broths swap their sodium out for potassium chloride to keep the flavor. Read the back of the can sometime. You'll see it listed right there in the ingredients, hiding in plain sight. And then there are the medications people rarely connect. Certain heartburn remedies. Some potassium supplements prescribed years ago and never stopped. Old prescriptions still sitting in the cabinet. Each one small, each one forgotten, each one adding to the pile. By the time all of this stacks up in a body over 60, on a daily ACE inhibitor, with kidneys that have quietly slowed down over the years, the potassium level in your blood can drift into territory your heart does not like. And that's when the symptoms start. Symptoms so subtle, so easy to blame on age, that most people miss them for months. Let me walk you through what they actually feel like. This is the part I want you to pay close attention to, because if any of what I'm about to describe sounds familiar, it may not be aging. It may not be arthritis. It may not be poor sleep or a bad night. It may be your potassium level talking to you, and your body has been trying to get your attention for a while. The first sign is usually fatigue, but not the ordinary kind. Not the tiredness that comes from a long day or a restless night. This is a heavier, deeper kind of tired. The kind where you sit down in your armchair at 2 in the afternoon and feel like your arms are made of sand. You didn't do anything unusual. You didn't skip breakfast. You just feel drained in a way that doesn't quite match your day. Most people brush it off. They say, well, I'm not 20 anymore. But when potassium creeps too high, the muscles, every muscle, including the small ones, begin to lose their normal electrical rhythm. And fatigue is often the very first whisper. The second sign shows up in your legs, specifically the stairs. You've climbed the same staircase in your home for 30 years, but lately, somewhere around the 4th or 5th step, your legs feel oddly heavy. Not painful, just weak, like the signal from your brain to your thighs is arriving a half-second late. Some people describe it as a rubbery feeling. Others say their legs feel like they're wading through shallow water. This is muscle weakness driven by disrupted nerve signaling, a classic hyperkalemia symptom that gets blamed on age nearly every single time. The third sign is tingling, around the lips, in the fingertips, sometimes across the tongue. It comes and goes. It's not painful, it's just strange. You might notice it while you're drinking your morning coffee, or reading the paper, or holding the steering wheel. Most people ignore it entirely. They think it's a pinched nerve or a circulation issue. But tingling in these specific areas is one of the earliest neurological signs that your electrolytes are drifting out of balance. The fourth sign is the one that scares cardiologists the most. Your heartbeat starts doing something unusual. It might feel like a small skip, a flutter, a pause, a double thump. It happens for a second or two, then vanishes. You put your hand on your chest, wait, and everything feels normal again. So you shrug and move on. But those little irregular beats are your heart's electrical system responding to too much potassium in the blood. And here's the part that's hard to hear. A heart that's tolerating this today may not tolerate it next month, or next winter, or after your next dose adjustment. Then there's the slower pulse. Some people notice their resting heart rate has quietly dropped over the past few months, from 72 down to 60, down to 58. They think they're just getting into better shape. They're not. High potassium slows the electrical signal that tells the heart when to fire. Shortness of breath climbing a small hill. Mild nausea that has no explanation. A vague feeling that something is off, but you can't name it. These are not small things. These are the body sending a slow, patient signal. And most people miss it because none of these symptoms feel dramatic enough to call a doctor about. Until, sometimes, the day it becomes dramatic all at once. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Raymond, 68 years old. Retired postal worker from somewhere in the Midwest. The kind of man who did everything right. He walked his dog every morning. He kept his weight down. He took his Lisinopril at the same time every day for 6 years without missing a single dose. His blood pressure numbers were something he was proud of. 122/78 most mornings. His doctor told him he was a model patient. Raymond had a routine. A banana with his coffee at 7. A glass of orange juice with breakfast. A turkey sandwich for lunch with avocado, because his daughter told him avocado was good for his heart. And at dinner, he'd sprinkle that blue-labeled salt substitute on almost everything, because he'd sworn off regular salt years ago. On Sundays, his wife made a big pot of low-sodium vegetable soup that lasted them halfway through the week. None of this seemed dangerous. To Raymond, it looked like a textbook heart-smart diet. For about 3 weeks before it happened, Raymond noticed he was tired. Not sick tired, just worn out. He blamed the heat. He blamed the yard work. He mentioned to his wife that his legs felt funny going up to the bedroom at night. She told him to see the doctor. He said he'd bring it up at his next checkup in 6 weeks. On a Tuesday morning in July, Raymond stood up from his kitchen chair to refill his coffee. He made it 2 steps. His legs went soft underneath him. He didn't fall dramatically, he just sank slowly, almost gently, onto the linoleum floor. He was awake. He was talking. But he couldn't get up. His wife called 911. By the time paramedics hooked him up in the ambulance, the ECG monitor showed something they've all seen before. Tall, peaked T waves. A wide QRS complex. The classic electrical signature of a heart swimming in too much potassium. At the hospital, his blood work came back with a potassium level of 6.8. Normal range tops out around 5.0. At 7.0 and above, the heart can stop. The ER doctor asked Raymond 3 questions. Are you on an ACE inhibitor? Yes. Do you eat bananas or use a salt substitute? Yes and yes. Do you take any potassium supplements? Raymond thought for a moment and remembered. His old multivitamin, the Senior Formula one, had potassium in it. He'd been taking it for 2 years. That was the picture. A perfectly healthy-looking man, doing everything he thought was right, slowly stacking potassium in a body whose kidneys, quietly at age 68, could no longer keep up. He spent 2 nights in the hospital. They stopped the salt substitute. They pulled the multivitamin. They adjusted his lisinopril dose. He went home fine. But here's what the ER doctor told him on the way out. If his wife had left for her sisters that morning like she was planning to, and Raymond had been alone on that kitchen floor for another 2 or 3 hours, the story would have ended very differently. This is not a rare story. Emergency rooms across the country see a version of it every single week. And the frightening part is how preventable it is once you actually understand what to do. Which brings us to the good news. Now let me be very clear about something before I go one word further. Nothing I'm about to say means you should stop taking your lisinopril. Do not do that. Lisinopril is one of the most effective, most protective blood pressure medications ever developed. And for most people, the benefits are enormous. Stopping it suddenly can send your blood pressure surging in a way that's far more dangerous than anything we've discussed today. So please, hear me on this. The goal is not to abandon your medication. The goal is to stop feeding it a fuel that works against it. Start with your fruit. You do not have to give up bananas. You just have to give up the daily banana. For most people over 60 on an ACE inhibitor, one banana every 2 or 3 days is plenty. Same with oranges, cantaloupe, and avocado. Rotate them, don't stack them. If you had a banana with breakfast, skip the orange juice. If you had avocado at lunch, skip the tomato soup at dinner. Think of potassium the way you think of dessert. A little across the week is fine. A lot every single day is where trouble starts. Next, look at your salt shaker. Not the regular one, the substitute. If it says potassium chloride anywhere on the label, take it off the table this week. Not forever necessarily, but at least until you've had a conversation with your doctor. There are excellent salt-free herb blends, Mrs. Dash is the classic, that give you flavor without any potassium at all. Garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, lemon juice, fresh herbs. These are your friends now. Then, go through your medicine cabinet. I want you to physically pull out every bottle, every supplement, every multivitamin, every old prescription. Read the labels. If you see the word potassium anywhere, set that bottle aside and ask your doctor or pharmacist whether you still need it. You'd be amazed how many people are quietly taking a potassium supplement prescribed a decade ago for a reason that no longer applies. Here is the single most important thing you can do this month. Call your doctor's office and ask for a basic metabolic panel. It's a simple blood test. It measures your potassium, your kidney function, your sodium, and a few other markers. Ask specifically for your potassium number and your creatinine number. Write them down. If your potassium is above 5.0, that's a conversation. If it's above 5.5, that's an urgent conversation. Most doctors will run this test happily if you ask. You do not need to justify it. Just say, I'm on Lisinopril and I'd like to check my electrolytes. A few other quiet habits that help. Drink water throughout the day. Dehydration concentrates potassium in your blood. Be careful with ibuprofen, Advil, Motrin, and naproxen. These over-the-counter painkillers stress the kidneys and can worsen potassium retention in someone on Lisinopril. If you need something for pain, acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, is generally safer, though always check with your doctor. And finally, do not change your Lisinopril dose on your own. Not up, not down, not skipped. If anything we've talked about today concerns you, bring it to your doctor as a question, not as a decision you've already made. There is one last warning most people never hear. Here is the warning almost no one gives you at the pharmacy counter. If you are on Lisinopril, there are certain other medications that can multiply your potassium risk far more aggressively than any banana or salt substitute ever could. And some of these are so common that you may already be taking one without realizing the combination is a concern. The first is spironolactone. It's often prescribed for heart failure, for swelling in the legs, sometimes for stubborn blood pressure. It's a potassium-sparing diuretic, which means it does exactly what Lisinopril does. It tells your body to hold on to potassium. When these two are combined without careful monitoring, potassium can climb quickly. Your doctor may still choose to use them together, and sometimes that's the right call, but it must be monitored. Blood tests, regularly, not once a year. The second is any medication ending in sartan. Losartan, valsartan, olmesartan. These are called ARBs, and they work on the same system as Lisinopril. Doubling up on both is something most cardiologists avoid for this exact reason. The third, and this one catches people constantly, is regular use of ibuprofen or naproxen. Advil, Motrin, Aleve. If you're taking these 3 or 4 times a week for arthritis or back pain, while also on Lisinopril, you're quietly straining your kidneys and worsening potassium retention at the same time. Occasional use is usually fine. Chronic daily use is where the trouble starts. So here is what I want you to do this week. Just this week. Not someday, not eventually. 1. Take a hard look at your fruit bowl and your dinner table. Rotate the potassium-heavy foods instead of eating them every day. Put the salt substitute in the back of the cabinet until you've talked to your doctor. 2. Pull every bottle out of your medicine cabinet and check for the word potassium. If you find it, ask whether you still need it. 3. Call your doctor's office and request a basic metabolic panel. It is one of the simplest, cheapest, most protective blood tests in modern medicine. Ask for your potassium number. Write it down. Keep it. 4. If you notice any of the symptoms we talked about, the unusual fatigue, the heavy legs on the stairs, the tingling lips, the skipped heartbeats, the strange, slow pulse, do not wait for your next annual physical. Call sooner. And 5. Share this video with someone you love who takes blood pressure medication, a spouse, a brother, a sister, a friend from church, because this is the kind of information that doesn't get passed down at the pharmacy counter, and it should. Here's the truth I want to leave you with. Lisinopril is not the enemy. Bananas are not the enemy. Your salt substitute is not the enemy. The enemy is silence. The silence between a prescription being written and a patient being told how their daily life needs to shift around it. You've now been told. And that puts you ahead of most people your age who are quietly stacking risk without knowing it. Take care of yourself. Talk to your doctor. And the next time you reach for that fruit bowl, you'll know exactly what you're doing and why. If this helped you, subscribe. There is more your medications aren't telling you, and we're going to keep bringing it to you, one honest conversation at a time.